When Space Marine 2 launches this September, players will get the chance to dive into the campaign, operations, and Eternal War. The mad dash will be on to grind out missions and create the ultimate soldier in the name of the Emperor. However, if you don't make full use of the game's progression system, you'll likely waste time and resources you could be putting to better use. And that's where we come in. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're breaking down all things progression inside of Space Marine 2 so you can spend a bit less time in menus and a lot more time in the heat of glorious battle. With all things progression related inside of Space Marine 2, you'll be spending a ton of time utilizing the Armouring Hall aboard your battle barge. There are quite a few menus to dive into, and if you aren't careful early on, you can quickly burn through your resources on things that don't quite matter as much, like shiny new paints, emblems, and yes, weapons, thus missing out on key moments that would push your character forward. Get stuck, and you'll be subjected to running low-tier missions over and over just to grind out the early game resources you wasted, and we don't want anyone to get stuck in that loop. Interacting with the central console of the Armouring Hall will bring you into the class selection menu, and it's here you'll navigate to every other aspect of your character's progression. At the top, you'll see the 6 classes featured at launch: Tactical, Assault, Vanguard, Bulwark, Sniper, and Heavy. When you choose a class at the top, you'll also be selecting that class to take into missions, so consider this not only your progression menu, but also your character selector. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see each selected class's level, how much XP you need to level up, a quick tooltip explaining your selected class's special ability, and your armor class, which shows how many nodes of armor that specific class has, which correlates to how durable they are in combat. At the bottom right of the screen, you have your perk tree. This is specific to each class, with one perk unlocking and becoming available for purchase with requisition each time you level up. Perks in this tree are unlocked from left to right as if you're reading a book, and players can only select one perk per column. Once a class reaches level 25, you'll have access to the full assortment of perks, and while not all are incredibly interesting, these perks are strong. Build crafting will be on the lighter side based on our experience with the game so far, with the majority of those builds being created around this system. On the left-hand side of your screen are your loadouts, and you can have up to 3 custom loadouts per class. These are a lot more essential than you might realize, because during missions at specific Space Marine drop pods, you'll not only be able to change your loadout to any of the 3 you've built out ahead of time, but selecting a loadout, even the same one you are currently using, will replenish your ammunition. Certain encounters require different builds at higher difficulties. Some sections of an operation might be filled to the brim with hordes of lower tier enemies and packs of elites, while another section might be an armored boss fight and your only target. Different weapons excel in different scenarios, so slowly building out custom loadouts will help you immensely in the long run. Slightly to the right of that, you'll find the Trials menu. These are scenarios custom built for each class that not only teach you the core mechanics of each class, but also have a timed ranking element to them that pushes you to achieve all 3 objectives in order to receive a goodie bag of progression materials. Achieving an A rank in each trial will net your overall account 25 requisition and 1 master-crafted tier armory data fragment. I suppose this is also the best time to touch on the progression resources present in Space Marine 2. The easiest way to do this is to dive into the weapon progression menu. At the top right of this screen, you'll see 4 colored icons with numbers next to them. The yellow circular icon represents requisition, and this is the most widely used currency in the game, but if you aren't careful, you'll deplete this before you even realize just how valuable it is. You earn requisition by simply completing operations and possibly through Eternal War. We didn't have access to that game mode during our preview. The higher the tier, the more requisition you'll earn at the end. Additionally, and as we just mentioned, you can obtain a sizable amount of requisition before you even complete a single operation by A ranking each trial for each class. Completing all 18 trials will net you a hefty 450 requisition to start with, and this will make progressing your characters a much smoother process, that is, if you don't spend it frivolously on cosmetics. Next to that, on the left, is Armory Data, and you'll need this resource to unlock new tiers of each weapon. You'll gain this data in multiple ways. The main way, during operations, is to locate the hidden servo skull that is randomly placed somewhere on the map each run. The second way is more RNG related, but sometimes maps will spawn with additional mini-bosses, such as the Carnifex or Neurothrope. Successfully killing these will reward you with an armory data fragment upon extraction. Green is for the Mastercrafted tier and is earned in minimal and average threat difficulties. Purple is for the Artificer tier and is earned within substantial threat difficulty operations. Finally, yellow is for Relic tier and is earned within the current highest threat level in the game, Ruthless. The last resource we need to talk about are Mastery Points. In short, these are used to purchase perks within each weapon's respective perk tree. Unlike all previous upgrade resources, these are exclusive to each weapon archetype and can only be spent on that weapon's perk tree. But how do you get these? In order to successfully do that, we'll dive into the weapon progression system. Each class within Space Marine 2 has restrictions on what weapons they can bring to battle. For example, the Bulwark doesn't have access to a primary weapon, but can choose between the Bolt Pistol or Plasma Pistol for its secondary weapon, and either the Power Sword, Power Fist, or Chainsword for its melee weapon. It's also the only class that has access to that Power Sword, making it unique to the Bulwark. On the other hand, the Heavy doesn't have access to a melee weapon, instead being able to select from the Heavy Bolter, Heavy Plasma Incinerator, or the Multi-Melta for its primary weapon, and between the Bolt Pistol or Plasma Pistol for its secondary weapon. Immediately, there is something important to note here. Between these two classes, both share the exact same options for their secondary weapons. This means if you spend a bunch of time on the Heavy and level up the Plasma Pistol, when you eventually play the Bulwark, you can jumpstart your power curve with weapons you've already spent time progressing. Paying attention to which weapons multiple classes share is a great way to identify what weapons are most efficient to progress on early. Within the 4 tiers of each weapon, you'll see multiple variations you can purchase with Requisition, and each one has different stats you'll want to compare. While primaries and secondaries do have important things to take into account like ammo reserves, penetration, and overall damage, melee weapons introduce another change, one you really need to pay attention to. Melee weapons have different blocking styles, and as you upgrade or change weapons, that style might change. There's balanced, fencing, or block, and these drastically influence your ability to easily parry and block attacks. Balanced gives you an equal but small window to block or parry attacks. Fencing allows you to perfect parry and counter attacks within a larger window. And lastly, block, you guessed it, is really great at blocking enemy attacks, but gives you no opportunity to perfect parry enemies. Once you purchase a weapon, you'll notice an overall XP bar at the top of this section for progressing through each tier, but also each weapon has its own XP bar. Taking that weapon into combat and actually using it will reward that weapon with XP at the end of a mission, and once maxed out, you'll gain a mastery point that you can use in its respective perk tree. You can also spend the right tier's armory data token once per weapon to instantly max out that weapon's XP bar, granting you the mastery point. At the end of the day, you'll want to purchase and level up every weapon variation to ensure you have the max amount of mastery points available to use when filling out that weapon's perk tree. Now, these perk trees aren't the most exciting, but they do provide you with passive bonuses to that weapon overall. There are some small choices to make here, opting for one node path over another, but at the end of the day, you're getting passive bonuses that make you stronger, and that's all that really matters when trying to push into the harder difficulties. As far as armor customization goes, you'll unlock pieces by completing operations, and by investing into the heraldry system with Requisition to unlock more colors, decals, patterns, and even additional armor pieces. We go deeper into this system in our Ultimate Preview video, so check that out if you'd like to see and learn more about visual customization and other systems within Space Marine 2. So there you have it, everything you need to know about progression in Space Marine 2 at this point. Keep in mind, we're playing on a preview build of the game, and things might change for launch, but the bones are there. And if you've been waiting to see and learn more about these systems, well, there you go. My friends, we've got more Space Marine 2 planned in the very near future, so if you want more videos like this in your feed, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.